U-Turn Radio. Here at U-Turn Radio, we believe in big-hearted communities and small government. Join your hosts, Nadia Renner, Tom Murphy, and Eric Steinman, as we work to put local governments on a diet and champion the charities that support your community. So come on, join us and let's turn it around.
Welcome to U-Turn. Happy Sunday. I hope you guys are having a great Sunday. We are back live and direct. Tom made it through our last show. If you do not know what I'm talking about, you should go watch this video because it's actually very entertaining. You can check that out at uturnradio.com.
It was entertaining. And,
absolutely.
and my family is amused by it.
I bet. We have Eric joining us via telephone. Welcome, Eric. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Awesome. So we have a great show today. Elections are Tuesday. So this is going to be a very informative show that we have today.
Right, but I want to start off with a disclaimer.
What's a disclaimer?
Well, did you hear that ad that came on just before we came on air?
Uh-huh. Well, there was a few ads. Which one?
Okay, this was the baby boomers were telling the young, don't vote.
Right.
Okay, according to demographers, apparently I'm just on the, born in 62, so I'm just on the tail end of the baby boomers.
Okay.
And this whole show today is going to be about vote, go vote,
right.
Vote. If you can vote, go vote.
And actually, it's very informative, too, for the young generation. If you guys haven't done your research, this is a great show where you're going to listen to the propositions that you're going to vote on, hopefully, if you get to go. So this is going to be a very informative show for the younger generation and everybody in general.
They're going to have to do their own research, though, because they don't want to trust us. They don't want to trust our guests. They want to read and comprehend themselves and make their own decisions.
Well, we could share that thinking this Sunday.
But I will provide an opinion.
Last show, we had a great show. We talked about Orange County, and pretty much they're trying to raise a one sales tax increase. And we covered that last Sunday. Right.
Yeah. And really the point of that whole show was maybe not to emphasize so much what's happening, at Laguna Beach in Orange County, but to draw an analogy between what they may be trying to do with their 1% sales tax increase and what could be done over here. And from my perspective, stuff is being marketed as general services, fire, those types of things, where
right.
Underneath it is budget's gone bad.
Right. So now we are moving forward to today's show, which, like we said, it's a really great show. But just so everybody knows, if this is your first time listening to U-Turn Radio, anybody that calls, our guests get rewarded. That's right. We get to spin the wheel for charity, and we pretty much spin it, and whatever it lands on, we donate that money to your favorite charity working here in the Inland Empire. So you could definitely call in 909-792-5222. That's 792-5222, area code 909. And you can also go check out the previous shows on uturnradio.com.
Right. And if they go to last week, they can see me choke and almost die live.
Tom, I hope that doesn't happen today because we have a guest. We have a special guest, politics editor Andre Mouchard. Is that right? Did I pronounce your last name correct?
Yeah,
Andre?
That sounds good. That's close enough. I like it.
Well, I don't want you to like it. I want you to love it. So please, by all means.
No, that's fine. Mouchard. You got it right.
All right. Welcome to U-Turn Radio. Thank you so much for being with us this Sunday. I know it's football Sunday, and you are a football fan.
Yes, I have the Rams game. I will put it on mute, though. Just watch that in the background. But yeah, so how are you guys doing today?
We're doing fantastic. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go for the Rams today just because we have you on live and direct on a Sunday.
Sounds good.
If we hear a loud exclamation, we'll know what that is.
Yeah, well, touchdown, baby.
I'll try not to. Exactly. I'll try to avoid any of the bad words.
All right, so let's get into it.
Before we go, I got a question for Andre. Andre,
sure.
In terms of your profession, you're a political editor for the Orange County Register. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the Orange County Register and the Southern California News Group, which includes the Riverside Press Enterprise and the San Bernardino Sun, and I want to say 9 other papers around Southern California. So yeah, but my career has mostly been with the Register.
Okay, that's great. And if we get through the 10 or 11 state ones, maybe we can talk about some local races. But here's my question for you: as a political editor, in your professional, I guess, approach, do you have to remain neutral?
Well, here's the deal: is I'm a human being. Everybody covering politics is human, and humans have opinions, right?
Right.
But just like, let's say, judges or refs or anybody else, you have to sort of recognize what your biases are and set them aside, and then cover things as objectively as you can. We used to always talk about being down the middle, and what's kind of interesting is that because we're in such a polarized world right now, that the middle has been changed, and it's always defined by somebody else, right? So I don't ever say down the middle anymore. We just say we try to tell stories as objectively as possible, and that's not necessarily because we're all wonderful people trying to be really cool or whatever. But there's kind of some power in objectivity right now because a lot of news is brought to you with a particular flavor on the right or the left, and there's a market role, if you will, for objective news. There are a lot of people who are looking for stuff down the middle, and that's what we try to provide.
Okay. Your choice today.
Mm-hmm.
You can maintain your professional demeanor, or you have freedom to just go ahead and give it after you've given us, I guess, the official line.
Okay.
You're free to give us your opinion.
Okay.
If you want.
Okay. I will. I appreciate the freedom to do this. Yes. All right.
All right.
Sounds
So let's get into it. This Tuesday, it's time to go and vote. So let's get into the first proposition. So let's do proposition number 1. Can you go over the first one, Andre?
Yeah, Prop 1, as I recall, is about getting veterans into housing. And in my opinion and otherwise, it's kind of hard to argue that we shouldn't be doing stuff to help veterans. So I think in terms of the general concept here, that does seem to be something that I would suspect everybody wants, right? If there's a homeless veteran out there, the idea is that seems like a disgrace. The proposition, as I understand it, is for $4 billion, and that this would be used to help veterans in some low-income Californians basically get access to home financing and lower-cost housing. There's not a lot of lower-cost housing out there, which is kind of part of the problem. So, it's a $4 billion bond, and it would be, I want to say it's like 170 to 180 million bucks a year, which is not nothing, as they say. And so, that's the equation that voters can do. They can say, look, this will be a long-term debt, which is, I believe, 30 to 35 years. It'll be in the 170 to 190 million dollar range, but it would be used to generate $4 billion that would be used to help get veterans into housing and lower-income people into housing, some lower-income people. It would either be by providing the house or getting them closer to a home loan. So that's what it is. In terms of, there's kind of always a contingent of people out there that oppose bond measures just because it's long-term spending for sort of short-term problems, if you will.
Right.
I'm not sure that the homeless or housing shortage in California is a short-term problem. I think that's been getting worse every year for the last 20 years or so or longer, and it's really it's reaching a peak now. So I think that a lot of people, at least what I've seen, I have not followed, the ins and outs of each of these propositions, and there are a lot of people that have very good arguments against it. There are a lot of people that have very good arguments for it. But from what I gather, this is a relatively straightforward thing.
I agree. I think for these type of issues, we should come up with a solution rather than just trying to get money and say, here, let's fix it for right now. But long term, I mean, it's still going to hurt somebody's pocket. And usually
Right.
that's, hey,
Well,
us.
it could be. The thing is, Nadia, I don't know how old you are. I heard the other host was saying he was born in '62. I'm slightly older than that myself. It's easy for me to say, hey, let's do this. I probably, hopefully, would be around for most of this, but you never know. But for sure, it sounds like you would be. And so, when people are saying, let's fix this, you really got to think this is a long-term debt, and this would go, that $180 million bucks. It doesn't, it just sounds like a number, but every year that eats into other kinds of spending. What can be done to help the UC, for example? What can be done for, as we, the state is going to be spending more on climate change over the years. How much money are we going to have to do that? I mean, each one of these decisions is kind of small on its face, but it adds up. And it will impact future decisions too.
Absolutely, and yes, I'm the younger generation, so therefore it's one of those things that I hope that the young generation goes and vote if they can, because this is going to be like a long-term effect on us, really. So let's move on to Prop 2.
Yeah, that's good, because I have an opinion.
But
but actually, we have 4 bond measures in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk through each of the bonds, and then I'll throw in my 2 cents.
Okay.
Sounds
Probably
good.
not even 2 cents.
It'll be 2 cents when you start, but it'll be 1 cent per year for the next 40 years.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Inflation will eat into the value.
Right. Well, Prop 2. Now, I'm kind of shooting from memory here, but it's the No Place Like Home Act, I believe, or something like that.
Right.
This is kind of a follow-up. A few years ago, we approved the millionaire tax, and I say a few years ago now. It's been, 14, 15 years. And the idea there is that incomes of $1 million or more would be taxed at I forget the exact rate, but that some of that money would be used to help the mentally ill. When that tax was approved, I believe that the help for the mentally ill was defined as being programs and social services and things like that. If I understand it correctly, the No Place Like Home Act would put $2 billion toward basically housing, right, where we would start building, some kind of permanent dwelling that would be used to help people who are homeless. And many of the people who are homeless are suffering from mental illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, the idea here is that it would do in spirit what the millionaire tax was aimed at doing, but because it is taking the guise, if you will, of actually building properties, some people argue that's not the same as the service. So this is, if you will, it's kind of a fix or an adjustment on something that was passed a few years ago. So, that's kind of what this is about.
Andre, reading your little piece on Prop 2, there's one thing maybe I didn't quite understand about it. Is this basically money? This is money that is already being taxed off millionaires.
Yes,
So
this is not, as far as I understand, and I'd have to get in there, I don't think it's taking, I don't think it takes new revenue necessarily. What it does is it carves into the millionaire tax that is currently taxed and says, okay, some of this can be used for actually building dwelling. The people who are in the business of supporting mentally ill people for the state would, they would suffer in the notion that there wouldn't be, those programs would not get the funding that they get right now. But this in theory would be helping solve a problem for people who are homeless. So, you can look at it that way too.
And from the article that you wrote, it says roughly 50,000 people are homeless in Los Angeles, Orange County, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties.
Yep.
And many of
That's
those are mentally ill.
Yeah, that's a low census count from what I understand. That I kind of was conservative in that estimate. I think in reality there's probably closer to 70,000 who are at least at times homeless. And yeah, I believe that the estimate is somewhere between 30 and 50% of those people, have some sort of undiagnosed, or not undiagnosed, but are not treated for a particular mental illness, and hence they wind up on the street.
Right. We had a homeless show here, and we covered that some do have some mental issues. When we talked about homeless here in the Inland Empire, and that seems to be one of the issues too with homeless. So let's move on to Prop 3.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Prop 3. Okay, this is money again that would go toward building dams and water storage and water restoration projects. It's not very sexy to talk about this stuff, but water restoration particularly is a huge issue. We're rapidly wiping out our natural waterways, particularly in the inland part of the state. And so, everything from fisheries to, nature itself, we don't want to screw that up. And, everything, fishing, recreational fishing, camping, that kind of stuff. All of it is sort of dependent on clean water. That's part of this. That's not the whole thing, but that's part of it. It would also, I believe, finance, habitat restoration. This is when was it? I think it was earlier this year in the June primary. I believe we did pass a bond. And I got to be honest with you, I'm a little fuzzy as to how that transpired. I don't know how it is that we came to vote for a bond that passed in June, but I know that we did. That was $4 billion for, again, similar kinds of stuff. But this was, I think, the hope by people who are supporting this is that both of these things would pass. This bond would be in the closer to $9 billion range, a little bit under that, and it would tack on about $500 million a year, 433, 440 million, I forget, but it would tack on more money per year because it's a bond, right? So that would be, again, it would be a 30 or 40 year payment. So that's the equation, right? Is the water storage and water restoration and habitat restoration worth the $500 million a year?
That's insane. That's a lot of money.
A lot of money, but you once this stuff is jacked up, it's gone, right? And you could make the argument, I think, that it's kind of a moral imperative to, it's not our right to wipe out things that are not ours, right?
That's true. Right.
And if we can, if it means a little bit of money out of our pocket to clean up after ourselves, perhaps we should do that. I don't know. That's again, those are the issues at hand here. I don't want to tell people how they should vote on that, but it's out there.
You have something to say, Tom, about the bond? You want to wait till the fourth one?
You've got to wait for you promised you were going to wait till after number 4.
Yeah, that's
Tom's sitting here with a big smile, just waiting. Okay, let's get to Prop 4.
Okay, Prop 4 is, I think, I want to say there are 7 or 9 UC-connected hospitals, maybe it's less than that, that handle a lot of the lower income pediatric cases in California, and lower income kids who need hospitalization don't have insurance, and so these hospitals are kind of already sort of financed by taxpayers to a certain extent, but they, because of they're under constant financial pressure. Typically, these hospitals do not, they struggle to get the latest technologies. They struggle even to have basic infrastructure to a certain extent. And hospital infrastructure is very complicated, but you've got to, it takes a lot of money to run a modern hospital, right?
Right.
So this is a bond, Prop 4. My notes tell me that it was $1.5 billion, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the idea is that that money would go to the hospitals. I want to say at least one of them is here in Southern California. I believe another one in our area, and I think another was in San Diego. One is is it Irvine? Is it UCI? And probably, UCI I think has one, which is, I believe it's in Orange actually, but it's connected to UCI. And anyway, so the idea is that this would help those hospitals modernize.
Okay. So those
All right.
are, so that's prop 4 for you, Tom.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. You ready?
I'm excited.
So here's my first question for you.
All right.
Okay. So let's say you're sitting at home on November 6th and you're watching TV. Okay. And you get a knock on the door. You open the door, and somebody's there, and they say, "Hey, how would you feel about donating $166 to redo the pediatric hospitals?"
I would say that's a lot of money.
Okay.
I could give you $20 maybe.
Okay.
This is me being honest.
Okay. And don't hold me on these numbers. This is all just back of the napkin calculation.
Okay.
Sure.
You know what the actual number is. I don't know, but that's the point I'm going to make. And now
Okay.
I'm going to make it again. Okay. So yeah, let's say you're a good person. You, out of the goodness of your heart, you commit to this. Okay. You say, okay, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it on a yearly payment.
Okay.
So it's like, all right. And then 15 minutes later, you get a knock on the door. Okay, and
Hello.
somebody has to say, "Hey, how do you feel about giving $993 for water projects in the state?"
Oh,
What are you
geez.
gonna
I
say?
just donated $20 to the Children's Hospital too.
And these are 2000. This is a study done by the California. Who are these people? California Policy Center. So they did a study based on 2016 numbers.
Okay.
So it's a little bit dated, but basically what they did was they collected all the debt that is laid on us, if you will, via government action.
Okay.
And these types of bonds obviously would be included. So in general, this number includes government indebted us from bonds and other type of financial things, along with the pension debt, and then they basically ran some math, and you are in debt. Well, in 2016, you're in debt $73,917. That's the total debt burden that was on you in 2016.
And that would be spread out over how long?
It would. I think that's a good question. I think that they didn't give a specific number because the debt instruments can vary. So
But
even
let's just say it's over a say 30 to 40 year period, right? I
Yeah,
mean, that's what most
yeah.
of these bonds are in that vein. And then also when they were calculating the pension side of that, they were making an estimate on that we're going to be financing, or we're going to be meeting our pension obligations, which have actually gone up considerably since 2016 even, which is kind of weird. Actually, maybe since 2016 it's held about even because of the stock market. But the upshot is that number is including pension debt, right?
it is including pension debt. And what they did was they took the official estimate for pension debt, and then they added in Moody's, if you will, estimate. So, rather than kind of the rosy, 7.5% that pension funds are using, I think they Moody's is like mid-range, actually I think it's more like 4.5, 5. Anyway, so they use that number, and yes, that is repaid, if you will, over the next 30, 40 years.
Right.
However, do you think that burden is getting less?
Absolutely not.
Do you think that there's an impetus to rein that in and say, wow, let's decrease that debt burden? There's conversation, but in this year, that they studied, another $1,400 was added to that total for every person that lives in the state.
Yeah, I saw somewhere when I was doing the research for this story, the total number of times that we've had a chance to vote on a bond measure, right, in California over the last 20 years. I want to say there have been like 29 or 35 bonds, let's just say that. And I think we've approved all but 2.
Oh,
In other
wow.
words, when people are in the voting booth, they're essentially kind of, people talk about we're not going to, we should measure these things out, but most people approve bonds. Not every single one, but most of them get approved. I guess I would. If I hear your question is, would you be willing to pay that money? I think that it's an interesting thing, because let's say that it was 17 grand. Let's say it's over 40 years. Let's say, or 30 years. Let's say that comes out to, just for argument's sake, with interest and inflation, about $1,000 a year. Okay, the things that has been paying for, that money pays for, ranges from roads, cleaner water. I believe we've invested in like solar engineering, stuff like that. There are all kinds of things that we pay for with these bonds that probably the private market couldn't do. And if we came down to it, we would probably want our. Hang on just a second.
Oh, the Rams must have scored.
I just missed the Rams. Sorry, the Rams just missed the field goal, and I just missed saying a very bad word just now. So, anyway,
you missed.
It's not a word that is appropriate for radio. It's the one that I wanted to use. But anyway, the upshot is I guess I understand totally that question, and I'm not saying that I'm down with that question. But I hope that when we think of that, we frame it with the idea that government actually does provide services, and it does provide things that, while we take them for granted, if they were not available to us, we would say, that kind of sucks. If you drove over a bridge, for example, that didn't work, you would be sad, right?
Absolutely.
So there are a lot of things that are abuses. I would say there are a lot of pension things that are kind of crazy in our state. There are a lot of things that we've voted to approve or disapprove over the years that I would say, as a citizen, I kind of look at and I go, what the heck were we thinking? But when it comes down to all these bond things, and I'm not saying they're all good, the equation needs to include that it's a lot of stuff out there. You're getting a lot for that money.
Yeah. We got to get a break anyway.
Yeah. Well, I would just say just the one about the water, the water infrastructure, right?
Right.
Again, we're not standing next to a stream that has steelhead in it, right? So we're kind of going, whatever. I'm going to go get a Monster Energy from 7-Eleven today. I'm not going to worry about that, right? But I think we probably want that stream to have steelhead in it, right? And if it doesn't, if we pay or if we let that go away, I don't know that that's really. I mean, you said earlier I'm allowed to express my opinion. I won't express a political opinion, but I will point out that I don't think it's our right as humans to permanently use up resources that are not really ours. So you do have to pay for stuff. Nothing's free.
That's true. Nothing is free. We've learned that. Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. That wraps up proposition number 4. We're going to cut into a break and come right back with Prop 5.
U-Turn is coming right back. Don't go away.
The Humane Society of San Bernardino Valley, protecting animals for more than 4 decades. The Humane Society's mission is to prevent cruelty and neglect to animals and to provide for the health and well-being of animals with an emphasis on spay or neuter programs to prevent pet overpopulation. Visit the Humane Society of San Bernardino Valley for your pet's medical needs. 909-386-1400 or visit hssbv.org. The Humane Society of San Bernardino Valley, a leading nonprofit organization in caring for all animals in need. Support the San Bernardino City Mission. Your donations help feed the hungry, provide used clothing for low-income families, provide access to housing and rehabilitation for the homeless, and help all who come to them for help. The mission provides a personalized assistance program for homeless men and homeless women and children. They help get less fortunate off the streets, place them in safe shelters, and get them back on their feet. Last month, the community helped provide over 7,400 meals and provided nearly 2,000 pieces of clothing, as well as almost 180 hygiene kits, which were provided for the needy. San Bernardino City Mission goes above and beyond, though, providing personal counsel, prayer, and a devotion time to encourage those in need in their spiritual life. So listen up, everyone. For a donation of just $1.57, you can feed a hungry person right here in San Bernardino. $15.70 will feed 10 people, and $157 will feed 100 hurting men, women, and children. If you're interested in helping and want to know more additional information, you can go to sanbernardinocitymission.org or call 909-649-0011. 909-649-0011. The San Bernardino City Mission, feeding the hungry, helping the homeless. That number again, 909-649-0011. Or visit them online, sanbernardinocitymission.org.
For more U-Turn Radio, go visit our website at uturnradio.com. That's uturnradio.com. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at uturn_radio. That's at uturn_radio. Or follow us on Facebook at U-Turn Radio.
How would you feel if you had to make a choice between buying food or spending your fixed income on life-saving medicine? No one should make that trade-off, but many low-income seniors are forced into difficult decisions like this every day. Smiles for Seniors Foundation provides energy assistance and safety net services to struggling low-income seniors in the Inland Empire. They provide one-time assistance to seniors to meet specific financial needs. They've helped with food, housing, utility payments, minor home and auto repairs, along with life-saving prescriptions or medical equipment. A nonprofit foundation funded entirely by donations from local organizations. Smiles for Seniors receives no funding from the state or federal government. They are funded by local businesses and individuals like you with big hearts and willing wallets. You can find more information or to donate to Smile for Seniors at 909-790-6671. That's 909-790-6671. Or visit smilesforseniorsfoundation.org. That's smilesforseniorsfoundation.org.
Tom, Nadia, and Eric are back with more only on the U-Turn Radio Show right here on KCAA.
Welcome back to U-Turn Radio. We are having a great show going over propositions. You know, elections are this Tuesday, so if you can go out and vote, please go and do it. And we went through Proposition 1 through 4 with our special guest, politics editor Andre Mouchard. Thank you so much for being with us. And we have a caller as well. So let's do this. Let's take the caller, and then we'll keep going with our propositions.
Outstanding. Sounds good. This is fun.
Fantastic. Welcome to U-Turn Radio.
Hello. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Who are we speaking to?
I'm Frank Ramirez, director of the Fontana Boxing Club.
Hi, Frank. Welcome.
Thank you.
You said you're from?
Fontana, with the Fontana Boxing Club.
Boxing Club. Do you have an organization?
Yes, I do. It's a nonprofit. We've been established since 1971. Became a nonprofit in 2015. What I do is I teach the art of boxing through hard work, dedication, sacrifice, and healthy living. More than 50 members every night come in, kids from 8 years old on to adults. So what I try to do is keep the community safe, keep them out of the streets. That's what my focus would be.
That's outstanding, Frank. Obviously, my first question of interest is going to be: have any of the folks that you maybe have initially trained or worked with, have they gone on to a career in boxing?
Yes, they have. Actually, I've had a couple of world champions, WBC world champions. My son is just turned professional August 25th, and he made his professional debut out there at Aguas Caliente Casino, winning by knockout in the second round.
Oh, nice.
So,
but Dad was proud.
What's his weight? What's he fight?
He fights at the bantamweight division, 118. So right now, there's not a lot around. We're trying to find some fights for him, but there's not a lot of that weight around.
Is he gonna wind up being bigger?
I'm probably gonna take him as much as 122. He's not very tall, so I don't see it unless, of course, his body really matures, which it doesn't say it can't. Anything's possible.
That's true. Well, Frank, thank you so much for letting us know about your organization. Why don't we spill the wheel for charity, Tom?
Okay, as I do this, you can explain, I guess. There we go.
All right. What does that land on?
I don't know.
Tom has to put his glasses on.
Okay, it's $800.
$800. Nice.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Frank, we're donating $800 to your club. in your organization, and I think boxing is a really cool thing to do as far as a sport, because you also learn so much discipline through it, and especially when you get into these type of sports at a young age. I think it's really good and healthy.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just young men need something to do, right? And
they do. And not only young men, but young women also.
I was just going to say, Tom.
We can't leave them out, because trust me, I've got some little girls in my gym, and I also have a girl named Mary Jane Ramirez who's making her amateur debut Sunday, November 11th in Highland, and she's 14 years old. She'll be fighting for the first time.
Nice.
So
there's a backstory to that, but I won't tell it.
So, Tom, just so you know, girls can also be as tough as guys.
Yes,
that was not the point. But anyway, go ahead.
It's great. Like I said, I've got the kid, kid as young as 8 years old, 9 years old, competing. It's, and watch these kids, they grow with it, and they develop into young men and women, moving on, maybe not into professional ranks, but going to school, going into the police force, going into the military.
All right, really nice. Well, thank you so much, Frank, for calling in. And
Frank, don't hang up yet.
Okay.
Once we pull you off the air, we'll collect your phone number, your contact information, that type of thing, and
I will.
We'll track you down this next week and make arrangements.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. The kids appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Frank.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So right before the commercial break, like I said, elections are this Tuesday, so you want to make sure you get out there and vote. We're going over the propositions. We stopped at number 4, so let's get into 5 with our special guest, Andre.
Yeah. Okay. So Prop 5. You had a commercial on right before we started where it was like in this baby boomer was kind of snarkily telling younger people not to vote.
Right.
They might have been talking about this. This is this would extend property the Prop 13 kind of tax break that you get would be used. It would be easier to take that throughout the state and to use it for different kinds of housing. Right now, there's a term in basically there's a when you're retired and you try to move, it can be harder to take the Prop 13 tax break with you if you leave the county that you're in, or if you go to a county where they don't accept your previous Prop 13. In other words, you're limited as to where you can move, right?
Right.
Real estate people really don't like that. They want to be able to sell housing to people throughout the state. They don't want people that, they see this as an impediment to making deals happen. And it is. There's no question. And it's not totally fair. I mean, I'm in a position where in a few years maybe my wife and I might want to, avail ourselves of moving and, have our Prop 13 deal, carry with us. But is that really fair? I don't know. If I've lived in a house for 25 years and in California have, appreciated, and enjoyed appreciation, I've already got kind of a chunk of change generally to make that deal happen. And then, I need to not pay taxes on that new house or pay a lower rate than my neighbors pay. I don't know if that's fair or not. So the deal here is that the real estate industry really wants Prop 5 to pass, and I've got nothing against the real estate industry. That's fine. But it would be, in the eyes of many people, this would be giving a kind of an extra gift, if you will, to people who are already, doing pretty well on their houses.
Yeah, I think, and Andre, please correct me if I'm incorrect on this. I thought part of the pro argument was that folks that have been in their house for 20, 30 years, let's say you had a family that, 4-bedroom house, 5-bedroom house, something like that, and now you're sitting on, whatever it is, a big chunk of change. But if they move, at that point, you might want to downsize, right?
Right.
You want to take a big. So you're like, okay, I want to move into this condo, but if I do that, my tax bill is going to go from, $2,000 to $6,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that because of that penalty, folks are kind of like the folks that might want to move are choosing not to because of the constraints put on them by the reigning, if you will, government regulations.
Well, I mean, that's one way to look at it. Reigning of government regulations is, a tax, right? They would be paying the same property tax on a property that somebody else who's buying that property would also pay. What they're not getting is the rate that they paid, when they were in the house when their property taxes were frozen, 25 years earlier. So yeah, I guess that's the reining in of government regulation on them. I don't know. That's one way to look at it. If you are somebody else buying that same property right next to them, and you say, "Well, geez, I pay $6,000 a year in property tax," and you say you shouldn't because you had a house in California for 25 years and you made a lot of money on it in appreciation, but now you don't want to pay that same amount, and you don't want to pay the same amount I pay in property taxes. That's another way to look at it. The real estate industry. I think there is a lot to say that it would suck. I mean, there are people who, are in a, where their income as they've aged is not as high as it once was, and so it would be a drag to not be able to move because you can't afford to pay property taxes, right?
Right.
If you've leveraged your house a lot, which a lot of people have done, that can be part of the deal. So, there are people who are genuinely hurt. I don't mean to make it. I certainly don't want to make light of anything, but or say that there aren't problems here. But I think for the way this is described anyway, this would be helping people who are mostly are in a pretty good situation to begin with.
Okay, so
onward. Next prop.
Okay, the next one is one of the two big ones on this list. Prop 6 essentially was created to try to undo the SB1 gas tax. The SB1 gas tax was passed, I want to say it went into effect a year ago. I think it was signed a year and a half ago. And it adds 12 cents a gallon to the price of gas in California, the idea being that it would raise money that would be used for infrastructure projects over the next, I think 10 years. This is, it's a fairly regressive. It's funny because the Republicans have discovered regressive taxes, and they don't like them all of a sudden. Because this would disproportionately tax people who are of low income, right? 12 cents is 12 cents. It's a bigger deal for people who don't have any money. And so, if you're paying, whatever, if you buy 100 gallons of gas, it's a certain amount of money, right? So this matters in that sense. It's definitely not a fair tax in that regard. That said, it's also, a tax that would discourage the use of gasoline, which is probably something that a lot of people would be in favor of. It is beginning to put a cost on gasoline that is close to, getting at least somewhat closer to its actual cost. I think we subsidize gasoline quite a bit. We don't take into account environmental damage from gasoline or health costs related to gas use. And if we actually included those costs into a gallon of gas, it would be much, much more than we pay. So this was done by legislature. That is, the SB1 gas tax was passed by a heavily Democrat legislature. I think the supermajority voted it in. Said, okay, this is where we're going. It's got, I don't know, $55 billion worth of spending over the next 10 years on road projects, largely. And so there are many, many jobs that are going to be connected to this. So politically, what you've got is a lot of construction unions, a lot of road building companies, a lot of money is behind this, saying, no, we need to keep the SB1 gas tax. Prop 6 comes along in part because the way that we structure our primaries in California are top two, right? So it's the top two vote getters get to go to the final. It happened that in the governor race, we wound up with a Democrat and a Republican. Okay, so a lot of Republicans do have a reason to come out and vote. If you look at the top of the ballot, they're saying, "Oh, I could vote for John Cox for governor if they so choose." When Prop 6 was being discussed, it wasn't a certainty that there was going to be two Republicans in the final for governor. Right? They were thinking, a Republican and a Democrat. There was a lot of thinking was that there'd wind up being, I think, Villaraigosa was a strong candidate for governor, and the thinking was that Villaraigosa and Newsom at the top of the ticket would be very discouraging to Republican voters. Okay, so the National Republican Party worked with the State Republican Party to create, and I think there's genuinely, there are a lot of people that want to get rid of SB1. I don't want to say that it's not that it's purely a political proposition, but it is on the ballot in part to encourage voting and participation and turnout by Republicans, because the idea being that if you can't vote for governor, maybe you'll come out to get rid of the gas tax. So, that's kind of the background on it. This boils down to, for voters, I think it is a question of, we pay by compared with other states, we pay a huge amount of money in gas tax. I want to say that the total tax on a gallon of gas is close to 50 cents a gallon, and that's a lot. That's more than anybody else in the country is paying. So, we are going to use those gas taxes to finance road projects, hopefully, unclog the freeways a little bit. I don't think it'll do that much toward that, but if that's the stated goal, so that's what's out there.
If it would better traffic, anything for better traffic, I would vote for. But hey, yeah. I don't think that would be a difference. But let's move on to Proposition 7.
Wait. This is a big one. I got to jump in.
Oh, this is your...
Okay.
Sure.
So let's go. Here, let's hear it, John.
So if you look at the text, I think in paragraph 2 it says, this is to take care of deferred maintenance. Okay. What does deferred maintenance mean?
What does it mean?
And first of all, I completely agree. The roads in California are awful.
Yeah, they are.
They're awful. Deferred maintenance means this is stuff that should have been done and wasn't done.
Okay.
It's like your car that you should bring it in for an oil change at 5,000 miles, and you go 15,000. That's deferred maintenance.
Right.
Okay.
You're right.
And if you defer maintenance,
great example,
you are going to pay at some point. You got to pay. Mm-hmm. So my immediate question is why was the maintenance deferred?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
But apparently some things happened, like they borrowed from so before this tax that was ever voted in, there was already a fund, right?
Right.
You were already being taxed for gas, and it was going into a fund. And the California State Legislature raided that fund, took money from it to fund the general fund, to fund other stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so that pot of money available to take care of your road maintenance went for something else. Okay?
Gotcha.
In fact, part of this bill is, hey, we'll pay back the $706 million we owe the whatever they call it, the transportation or fund. We'll pay that back from the general fund. That's part of the bill. So we know we know there was already money taken from this fund to do other stuff with.
Right.
And California politics in general has a track record of kind of taking money and put it where they want. So that's my first big deal is why are we paying more to pay for deferred maintenance,
which should have had already done?
Yeah, exactly. It's okay. So that's kind of my first, I guess, point on that is really, what happened to the money we already gave you?
Right.
What'd you do with it? And it obviously hasn't gone into roads, so it went somewhere else. So why why are we anteing up more? Okay, well, now we can move on.
All right.
Well, I guess I think it's a really good question, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't ask it, but you began that by saying that you agree that the roads suck, right?
They definitely do.
Yeah, and there are a lot of studies out there that say that that the notion of California infrastructure is like crumbling and it sucks. It's not in good shape. So I don't disagree with what you just said, but does asking that question fix that problem?
I tell you what, throwing good money after bad isn't going to solve the problem either, because the money goes to Caltrans, who has, in 2016 they got a Golden Fleece Award.
Here's my question. I don't disagree with anything. It's funny because we were having this, I'm a politics editor, right? So I've sort of imposed on.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous.
Well, it's not that fun actually. It is pretty fun. I'm teasing, but I've sort of abandoned we're trying to not let arguments take place where nobody offers up a solution. Right? It's one thing to say this is a terrible thing and it should have happened this way. Okay, I don't disagree, but how does that solve the issue at hand? And so my question would be: if you've got a way now, if you say we shouldn't throw good money after bad. I don't disagree with that. But what is it? How at the end of that argument, where do you get better roads?
Actually, I think it's the Stop the Gas Tax Foes, Carl Mayo, I think is his last name, out of San Diego. He's got a proposal. It's not on the ballot yet, but he's got a proposal that's basically we're going to put a lockbox on the fund. And basically write the law in such a way that you can't take any money out of it unless you spend it on actual roads.
Okay.
What is the lockbox?
When you say what is a lockbox, what do you mean?
I mean, the idea is that this would be done with no extra money.
No, it would be done with the money that's already, coming in for the gas tax. So you repeal the 12 cents a gallon, and you keep the, let's say, 30 cents a gallon. You put that in a lockbox, and you don't take it out unless you actually invest it and put it on a road instead of the 3,500 engineers that Caltrans has sitting around with nothing to do, according to an audit.
Lockbox meaning like it's just going to stay there. It's not going anywhere unless it's being...
It can only be spent
for that.
On road repair.
Gotcha.
I see.
That's the proposal.
So there's 3,500 engineers sitting doing nothing?
According to an audit that was done, this is internet research. So
do you believe that there's 3,500 people sitting around doing nothing?
There are, if I understand it correctly, this was a little bit older. There are 19,000 Caltrans employees. 1/4 of them apparently are assigned to Caltrans headquarters. It's difficult. It's not hard for me to imagine that actually could be a relatively accurate number. But again, I didn't crunch those numbers. This is internet research.
No, I don't know that it's not true. I'm just curious. I mean, I'm not asking that to be provocative. It just feels like a very political thing to say, that there's 3,500 people who come into work and don't do anything. I just
Google it up.
Google it up. I'll fight for that great Google. So let's go on to number 7.
Well, Andre, I would love to, but we ran out of time. We had such a great time having you as a guest.
My input on number 7, the daylight savings, is who cares?
Everybody's in favor of this. Come on.
Hey, Andre.
Change the space-time continuum with number 7. Yeah.
Actually, I agree with you.
Thank you so much for being with us, and go Rams. Right. Thank you for spending your Sunday with us here at U-Turn Radio.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now. On the brink, I'm Jeff Nathanson. Checking the NFL scoreboard. It is halftime right now in New Orleans, and the Saints are leading the undefeated LA Rams by a score of 35-17 at the intermission. Todd Gurley's got a touchdown run, of course, for the Rams. Alvin Kamara, 3 scores for the Saints, who are looking really good tonight. Remember, the Rams are undefeated on the season at 8-0. 2 other games in progress.